I'm Catherine Girardeau with podtech.net. I'm here at Seagate headquarters in Scotts Valley, California, with Mark Jourlet, Seagate's Vice President of Global Marketing. Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
So I'm here at Seagate because Seagate has just made a really milestone announcement, a new family of 1 terabyte hard disk drives.
We're actually announcing a complete portfolio, a complete family of terabyte drives. I actually have a terabyte drive right here. We're announcing a desktop Barracuda 7200 1 terabyte drive, a Barracuda ES, which is an enterprise class 1 terabyte drive, as well as video surveillance drives, DVR drives. They're all optimized for a specific application that a customer might want to produce. So we don't actually have a single drive. We have a complete family, complete portfolio of 1 terabyte drives that we're announcing.
So tell me first about the desktop model, the 7200.11. What are its main features? Why should I buy this drive?
The Barracuda 7200.11 has several characteristics that people want to look at. First of all, terabyte. If you need a large amount of storage, that's why you're going to be interested in the Barracuda 7200.11. Secondly, you can rest assured that this is the most reliable, highest quality hard drive, terabyte hard drive on the industry today, because it's our second generation perpendicular magnetic recording product. And that's a mouthful in and of itself. But basically, this is the second generation of the latest and greatest technology in the hard drive industry, which is allowing us to pack more bits per square inch on a hard disk surface. And we've actually shipped over 42 million hard drives with this technology since last year. And so we feel pretty comfortable with our ability to produce large quantities of highly reliable, high quality, perpendicular recording hard drives.
So what about the other drive, the enterprise storage version, the ES2? What are its main features and what sets it apart from the desktop version, the 7200.11?
The Barracuda ES 1 terabyte shares obviously the terabyte capacity with its brother Barracuda desktop 7200 1 terabyte drive. The other characteristics truly target the enterprise feature sets. The first one is a choice between two interfaces, basically the way you connect a hard drive to a server, to a storage backplane. Not only do we offer a serial ATA or SATA interface, but for the first time we're bringing a serial attached SCSI interface, SAS, which is really the high-end, high-performing interface that a lot of companies have moved to, and this allows them to have consistency in the backplane or the connectors and the environment that they're going to have between their high-end enterprise drives and their mid-range Barracuda ES class of drives. So consistency there, here again, is a godsend for IT directors and data center managers. The third feature is actually one of the key headaches that IT directors and data center managers have today, which is power consumption. We've actually engineered into our hard drive a technology that we call power trim, which allows us to reduce the energy budget of a hard drive by 20%. We actually can cut the number of watts per gigabyte, which is an interesting way to look at power consumption, in half, which means that you consume half the number of watts for the same amount of storage. And you think of today's data centers and the sheer growth of the number of servers and storage devices that are showing up in these data centers, cooling these devices is the number one headache today that data center managers have. And cooling means energy, which means expense.
Seagate's just made this milestone 1 terabyte announcement, and it's coming on the heels of the 50th anniversary of the hard disk drive industry. So I'm wondering if you could just give us some background on what has happened technologically in that 50-year time span to make this milestone possible.
Well, it's always interesting to reflect back on history, and it's nice to think back to the first hard drive. IBM actually announced the first hard drive. It was a whopping 4 megabytes, the IBM RAMAC. It was about the size of a large refrigerator, weighed about a ton, and cost the small amount of $35,000 a year to lease. You can kind of project forward where we are today with storage, and 4 megabytes, that's absolutely nothing. Today we have hard drives that fit in the palm of your hand that hold a terabyte. And that is an awful lot of information, and these don't cost $35,000 a year to lease, and they aren't the size of a refrigerator. So you can clearly see the progress that's been made with hard drives that most people take for granted, but actually is amazing when you look at how quickly that's happened. Well, there's a very simple law that I think most people can relate to, is no matter how big of a hard drive you have, it will always be full. And I think we've all lived with that. So a terabyte of storage may seem like an awful lot, but when you start to look at what most people have in their homes, it adds up pretty quickly. I have several terabytes actually in my house without even realizing it. More on the enterprise side, what powers iTunes, YouTube, MySpace? What are companies doing today other than creating more and more digital content? PowerPoint slides, giant databases, transactional databases. And they have to store these, they have to back them up, they have to be compliant with all the regulations, they have to have some form of disaster recovery. So here again, it's not just the visible side of the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg on the consumer side that's growing, but also the enterprise that has similar digital needs that are growing, and terabyte drive is just a natural evolution of what people need.
The market obviously is not stopping in its appetite for high-capacity storage. What does Seagate have in the works?
Obviously, Seagate's not going to rest on its laurels. Today we are announcing a terabyte drive. We see a path to 1.5 terabytes, 2 terabytes, 3 terabytes in the not too distant future over the course of the next few years. We already have in our labs technology demonstrations that pack over 430 gigabits per square inch. Clearly there's lots of headroom in the perpendicular magnetic recording technology that we have. Clearly this is still in the labs today, but it's going to come out into the mass production market. And that's really what we are looking for, is when is the technology reliable enough, high quality enough. Rest assured our engineers are working hard and diligently to make sure that 1.5 terabytes, 2 terabytes, and 3 terabytes are right around the corner. And some people might think, well, what am I going to do with 2 or 3 terabytes? Well, 5 years ago we didn't know what we would do with a terabyte, yet today we take it for granted with all the music, the photography, the videos, the DVDs and games that we've downloaded. We just assume that we're going to have enough storage. So I'm sure we'll find a usage and an application and something to fill our hard drives in a few years, at least 2 or 3 terabytes worth, no problem.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for inviting us out to Seagate to talk with you.
My pleasure.
Mark Jourlet is Vice President for Global Marketing with Seagate. I'm Catherine Giraudeau, podtech.net.